Hi everyone, welcome back to another Healthy You, Healthy Earth. I'm PJ with ZooFit, and typically whenever I go out to lunch with friends or even during presentations, the topic of conversation tends to lean towards what are some ways that I can green up my diet. And one of the things I've mentioned, again, this past little mini-series of eating green has been to eat less meat. Not necessarily knock meat out, but eating less meat. And one of the things I've recently discovered and has become really popular with friends as a particular request is how to make portobello bacon. And this is a new recipe for me, something that I've kind of created, made my own from influences outside. But it's a delicious way to replace bacon, again, eating a little less meat, but also eliminating a lot of waste. So on to it. Let's go ahead and try this for my very first time cooking demonstration. We're going to make some portobello bacon. So I started with a portobello mushroom and I've sliced them pretty thin. This is, again, recommend about 1/4 inch. And once you've sliced the mushroom, you can go ahead and place them on a lined baking sheet. Now I've lined it with parchment paper. The parchment paper is compostable, so it's wonderful. Again, won't stay in the landfill. And then you're going to make a marinade. And so my marinade is made with a list of quite a few ingredients. I use apple cider vinegar instead of tamari, instead of soy sauce, olive oil, and then a plethora of different spices. I use paprika, turmeric, thyme leaves, a little bit of black pepper, onion powder, ground mustard, and garlic powder. So let's go ahead and get the base started. It's going to be just 1 tablespoon. Let me grab that out. 1 tablespoon of the apple cider vinegar, and then 2 tablespoons of the olive oil. Now I did get this recipe inspired by the Simply Vegan cookbook. I'm skimping out on the name of the cook that made it, but she used a lot of soy sauce, and I've eliminated a lot of salt from my diet, so that's why I'm using the apple cider vinegar. It's a wonderful replacement. She also had only a few spices. I've added the paprika and turmeric, so I'm going to take one teaspoon of each of paprika, turmeric, and thyme leaves. And the paprika especially gives a nice smoky flavor. It really brings out the flavor. And I've added thyme leaves, kind of gives a little bit of an earthy tone as well. And I can kind of mix this up, kind of see where we're at. The others, I've kind of played with the flavors, and I found that I like a little less of the onion powder. So I'm using 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, ground mustard, and garlic powder. Again, not quite as heavy on the garlic powder as the original recipe. And then I'm going to add just a little pinch of the black pepper. So I've got my ingredients, and I'm going to stir them pretty good to kind of make a paste of sorts. And if you want to add a different flavors, if you particularly like oregano, for example, I highly recommend playing with this, experimenting with the flavors, finding out what you like and what works for you to make that paste. So now that I've got my paste, I've lined up my mushrooms, and I'm going to take the brush and then using either a brush. Some people do like to toss the mushrooms in with the paste. I prefer this method because it kind of gives an even distribution of the marinade. Nice thin layer. Now, as I mentioned, this is a really good alternative to bacon. And you don't have to necessarily replace it, but one of the reasons I was looking to look for some kind of substitute for bacon is normally bacon comes in plastic packaging, and it's kind of hard to even find a nice, again, hormone-free, no nitrates, no nitrites, and also not wrapped in plastic. So I came up with this, or I found this recipe, and then I said in the Simply Vegan, and then kind of experimented with the flavors and made it my own. And since then, again, I've used it for just about everything that we've used bacon for. So again, pizzas, green bean casserole, making it in our salads. And so I'm just going to flip them over. You're going to do both sides. And this basically has turned us from mostly vegetarians to almost all the way vegetarians. We're not, neither one of us, my husband and I, neither one of us are opposed to eating meat, but for our health, we have found it works really, really well. That's totally okay. That got a little broken there. Works really well for us is to go a little bit meatless, but the big benefit is, again, zero waste. So I get all my spices from the bulk food section. I also get my apple cider vinegar and my olive oil from the bulk food section of our co-op grocery store. So we have, and then of course the portobello mushrooms themselves are plain without packaging. So we have created a package-free, waste-free product or substitute for bacon. And the very first time I made this, my husband was a little hesitant to try it, but when he did try it, he was sold. He absolutely loved this recipe, and so I've started sharing this with others, or sharing the idea, and this is a popular demand to make your own portobello mushroom or portobello bacon. All right, so I am now ready to put in the oven. I do wait until I'm ready to place the bacon into the oven to turn on the oven, and that actually helps save energy. So if we only use the energy while we're cooking, we're going to save a lot of that energy. That is a lot of space that needs to be heated up. So I'm going to turn on the oven to 400 degrees. Hit start, and then I'm going to place the bacon top rack, and then I'm going to leave it in here for about 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, I'm going to take the bacon out, take the bacon strips out, flip them over, put them back in for another 10, maybe 15 minutes. After 10 minutes, you can turn the oven off and let it passively bake for just a little bit longer. Again, we call it passively baking because the oven is still really warm even after you turn it off. In fact, turning this oven on can help keep these bacon slices warm. This is what they look like when they are completely done. Nice and crispy. Again, using them for anything that you would use bacon for. I've used them for, as I said, pizzas, salads, casseroles, even bacon wrapped dates. Yeah, they even taste great with sweets. So this is your portobello bacon, a great way to cut down your waste, cut down a little bit of your meat, and still have a delicious meal. It's a way for you to eat clean, live green, and train positive.